forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If they, I am, may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. We're on a mission. Each one of us shares our own vision. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me.
Saludos. This is your host, Gabe Morales. We've been covering Nuestra Familia members over the past 6 decades or so. We'll resume with the M last names. I'll start off with Robert Medina Ramirez, also known as Daira, aka Outlaw, who's a very interesting individual who came out of Pacas, which is located in the city of Paicoma in the San Fernando Valley, just north of Los Angeles. He was one of the earliest NF members, under B number 1424. He was not, as some have indicated, a member of Familia Cinco in 1970, although I'm sure he had some conversations with that group. People have to understand there were multiple groups that were opposed to the Mexican Mafia that had been victimizing Chicano prisoners from the late 1950s to the late 1960s. Culminating with the incident that occurred that was kicked off after the theft of Hector Padilla's shoes at San Quentin in September 1968. Around 1970, I understand, there were multiple organizations that were semi-aligned in opposition to the MA. These were Nuestra Familia Mexicana, which Daira was a member of, the Texas Syndicate, the Maravillas, and Familia Cinco, which was led by a Maravilla, but was not made up of Maravilla members exclusively. On October 17, 1972, Frank Quemado Venegas from Hoyo Maravilla was stabbed by Daira inside San Quentin's North Block as Venegas sat in his cell. As I've stated several times, many of the Maravillas were aligned with the NF in their battle against Mexican Mafia oppression during the 1960s and 1970s. Evidently, Daira had asked Venegas to get him a shank, and Venegas failed to do so, as it appears he did not want to be involved in the NF-MA feud. Daira Medina then acquired a shank from another inmate and used it on Venegas in his cell for his refusal to cooperate. Understand, after NFM Padre Juan Lips Valdez was hit in 1972 by the MA, the organization needed a new leader, and a vote was taken that made Robert Babo Sosa the sole Nuestro General of just the Nuestra Familia. As I've said before, since he was not Mexicano, he in fact was Boricua, or Puerto Rican. The group was restructured from the Padre system to the military system under Babo, employing multiple captains, lieutenants, and soldiers. Understand that Daira was one of the main captains. In fact, Daira was the number 2 captain behind Death Row Joe. I've also heard some people state that the Nuestra Familia never had any revolutionary or social justice roots. This is not true, as I've shown in the Nuestra Familia Mexicana Constitution, written by Chalo Hernandez, assisted by Luis Araujo from Maravilla, a respected former MA member, and a few others. I also have letters written by the BGF talking about Juan Valdez, the Padre, being a revolutionary, and this letter from Venceremos to Daira Medina, encouraging him to follow revolutionary causes against the pigs. Daira was well respected, but soon was frustrated by the infighting of the organization, in particular the fact that Babo and Death Row Joe were killing many of their own, and so he decided to drop out by 1976. Understand that he actually was moved out of state, but for some reason, maybe he thought the smoke had cleared. Maybe he thought he'd sneak back into his barrio and not be recognized. But he was killed on May 7th, 1981 in Pacas by Dan and Joe Medellin, not to be confused with the Medellin Colombia cartel. Another interesting individual, there was Francisco, a.k.a. Big Pancho, Medina Velasquez, who had ties to Califas, Colorado, and here we go again, Washington State. Yes, I actually knew this guy. In fact, check this out. I once bought a car from him. He very clearly had Nuestra Familia tattoos as well as Welgenberg tattoos and was housed at DVI under B number 96497. I show that he was at CIM in 1978 but had paroled in 1980, where he moved to Washington State, which was about the time frame that I bought his car. I know his common law wife very well, who lived in Seattle for many years, but her family's from Colorado. And I interviewed Francisco at the King County Jail in August of 2006. And I believe he was sent to Washington, D.C. for a long time after that. There was Carlos Weasel Mahia out of San Ho. I showed that he was affiliated with the Northern Structure in the 1980s under C number 54669 that he acquired due to a robbery beef in 1982. Understand he paroled in 1985, but then was returned on a robbery charge in 1986. He then paroled in 89, but was hit on July 4th, 1990 by Lencho Guzman and Sleepy Esquivel, allegedly for doing an unauthorized hit on the NF associate, and his name was brought up in the 1992 RICO case. Understand that he was in and out of custody after that and then popped over in Las Vegas, but I lost track of him after the year 2012 when his name had appeared for many years on various hit lists. There was Leonard Indio, a.k.a. Cricket Mahia, out of San Jose. Understand this guy was affiliated with the NF in the mid-1970s, and he was stabbed on March 4th, 1977, and I was told became a hermit after that. However, it appears he resurfaced under C number 50758 and returned to San Quentin in 1992 and 93, as well as 1996. I then understand he was also housed several times at the Santa Clara County Jail in the San Jose area. Understand that he ended up getting life and I believe was revalidated as being an NF. He was housed at Pelican Bay in the year 2000 and evidently became a DO, as he has been housed for many years now at Mule Creek State Prison. There was Danilo Melendez out of San Francisco from the famous Los Siete case. This is where a bunch of young Latinos in the Mission District of San Francisco had a run-in with some cops. Evidently, one of the cops was shot and killed. The 7 involved were put on trial, and Danilo was one of the guys convicted. So he was sent to CDC under B number 40297. But Danilo, a.k.a. Baby, did not start Familia Cinco either. He tried to start a group called Nuestra Cosa Latino, and for that, he was killed on April 28, 1978 at DVI, as the NF did not want any competition. I may come back later and do a solo episode on Los Siete and Nuestra Cosa Latino if I get a chance. There was Daniel Ray, a.k.a. Dangerous, a.k.a. Ni Mendoza, out of Salas. He was an NF member in the mid-1970s under B number 43925. Understand that he was arrested and housed at the Monterey County Jail in 1991 when he went to trial on July 24th, 1991, and went for the court detail officer's gun and was shot to death. So he certainly earned his name Dangerous. You have Frank Joker Mendoza from Redondo Beach. There's way too much information to talk about Joker in just one episode, but let me give you a few details about this guy. Joker Mendoza ended up joining the Nuestra Familia around the year 1970 with B number 20028. He was housed at San Quentin in 1972, whereby he was considered a shot caller. In fact, so much so that CDC moved him to CIM to have talks with the inmate, since the 1968 war had reheated up in 1972 with several assaults by both sides. According to the reports I have, he was housed at CIM Palm Hall West in cell 263 on December 17, 1972, when he and Apo Masanas Colon of the NF attacked Cadena, stabbed him 50 times, and threw him over the second tier onto the first tier. Joker was indicted in the 1982 RICO case, and I understand was listed as a dropout by then and was hit by future BGF General Ricky Bonville, who later ran Folsom when I was there. He was housed at San Quentin in 1984 and hit in 1985 by the NF's Black Jess Gomez, another very dangerous individual. Now, a lot of people say that Joker was a bully, and when he was housed at Corcoran, he was celled up with a Fresno Bulldog by the name of Anthony Delgado and strangled to death. Thus, ended the life and criminal career of Frank Joker Mendoza. There was a Fred Coco Mendoza at a baker's. I show that he was NF in the late 1970s under B number 83852, and he was validated as being NF in 1980 by CDC. Understand that he was involved in the murder of Payaso Gonzalez at DVI in August of 1978. And the information I have is that Coca had dropped out by 1991. He was housed at Folsom in the year 2002 and at Mule Creek State Prison segregation in the year 2012. And then I lost track of him. There was George, a.k.a. Lucky Mendoza, who was a Northern Structure member in the 1980s under D number 6444434, which required for committing a homicide in 1985. I show that he was housed at Folsom, I believe 2 building, where he was caught with some shanks. He was moved to Corcoran shortly after it opened and was charged with an assault by prisoner in 1989. He then was let out of custody, but was convicted of committing a drive-by shooting in the year 2000 when he was given T numbers in Thomas, 3424. He then was housed at San Quentin, whereby I understand he had an affair with an ex-girlfriend of Pony Myers. And I understand that Pony's crime partner, Skip Villanueva, called upon Lencho Guzman to hit Lucky, who was not so lucky. And I show he was housed at Pleasant Valley State Prison after that, and currently is housed at Avenal State Prison. There was John Richard Boxer Mendoza. There's too much to cover on Mendoza here, but even he may be surprised. I co-signed on him being a good guest for a recent profile of the Nuestra Familia narrated by Mendoza.
My name's John Mendoza. I'm a former member of the Nuestra Familia prison gang. I was a Category 3, and I was a regimental commander in different parts of Northern California. And this is how crime works. I've been to San Quentin, Pelican Bay. In the early 90s, they put us out there with Southern Mexicans and the Aryan Brotherhood, the Nazi lowriders. Those were our enemies. They were putting us out there on the yard together, and we were going out there fighting. You know, you were crafty enough to bring a weapon out. We'll try to kill each other. I went to prison in 1988 when I was 18 years old. You know, some of my older homeboys that were there in the county jail with me basically told me that, you know, when I get to San Quentin, that the NR is gonna approach me about making a commitment. I knew who to look for. The first time I went out to the recreation yard, there was a group of individuals that were in the corner that were covered with tattoos. Those were the NR members. From that point on, they put me on a 90-day probationary period. It's like you're functioning within that movement, but you're not an actual member. You can do anything that they ask you to do. Stabbing somebody, keeping security on somebody, holding paperwork, holding a weapon. A lot of guys that make a commitment because they want the status, they want the title, those guys are gonna end up getting weeded out because they're not making the commitment for the right reasons. They're not true believers.
Although I've had a few differences with him, there's been no major issues. His information is usually accurate, and I gave a thumbs up for his book when it came out. And I found his YouTube channel to usually be very accurate, especially when he talks about the time period when he was in it. He was up there with the big time, as he once was a captain. He then paroled on July 4th, 1992, in time to watch the fireworks. Indeed, the fireworks were about to go off in his life. I show he was in Pelican Bay Shoe in 1993. In his cellie was Rocky Ramirez. Then show he paroled in May of 1993, but caught a robbery beef in October of that year, and was returned to San Quentin, where he was placed in the adjustment center. Then show he was moved out to Pelican Bay Shoe in 94. Understand that he was sponsored in the NF by Miquel Castillo and Art Smiley Ramirez in 1994, and paroled in October of that year. And I believe by 1998 was made a captain by the overall governing body. I show that he got popped on another violation, was returned to the Q in 98, and then got out, where he was the channel for Bobby Silent Lopez, overseeing the San Ho Regiment. I show he was at Corcoran in June of 2002, and then paroled. Came back into custody at Q in 2004, which is around the time period I believe he threw in the towel. There was Israel Silent Mendoza Cavazos out of Visa. I show he was affiliated with the Nuestra Raza in the 1990s under J number 37350. He ended up putting in a lot of work for the Familia and came under the attention of federal law enforcement, who prosecuted him on a 2001 RICO, whereby he was assigned BOP number 02845-748. I show that he was housed at various BOP facilities, including Pollock, as well as Florence and the ADX, but was released in September 2019. There was Randy, A.K. Blue Mendoza Satano. I show he was out of Fresno and was popped for 187 in 1974, which sent him to CDC with B number 65166. He was immediately considered to be NF, so I believe that hit was committed on behalf of the organization. He was housed at DVI in 1977, as seen here, but had dropped out by 1978. There was Rodulfo Dancing Bear Miramontes, who is a very controversial NF member. I show that he was involved in a robbery kidnapping in June of 1980, whereby he was sent to the CYA for 5 years. I show that he had an escape in June of 1981, but was returned to custody in July of that year. He then paroled in May of 1982, but caught a robbery beef in that same month, which caught him C number 47154. I then show he was housed at San Quentin in 1982 and caught an assault charge, I believe, on another prisoner in 1983. You may recall me saying during the XIV Bonds video that he and Skip Villanueva, and I should have included Mousy Lerma, as being some of the first guys to spread the Nuestra Raza gospel to the Norteño ranks in the early 1980s, when he had C number 47154. I show he was validated as being Nuestra Raza in 1990, but like I said, had already been extremely active for many years with that new organization by that time. My understanding is that he was very close to Corny Tristan, and Corny sort of protected him, even after he had messed up several times. I show that he paroled in April 1997 and continued to put in work, including committing a murder. I then show he paroled in 1984, but was popped for PCP cells in February of 1985 and given a violation. He then paroled in December 1986, but caught a robbery charge in January 1988, where he got 7 additional years. I believe he paroled on that one also and had multiple parole violations and was in and out of custody. I then show he caught T number 48853 and was housed at Pelican Bay SHU in 2004. When he was moved to Santa Clara County Jail in 2005, understand that he had been under increasing scrutiny as members complained about his antics, usually about him sex playing them. Basically, the guy was pegged as being a pervert. I show he was convicted again in 2010 and given A number is an apple, H as in Henry, 4941. Understand that he was housed at Tehachapi SHU in 2012 through 2013 and then died shortly after that. There was Frank Diamond Miranda. He was documented as being NF by 1971 when he was at Soledad with B number 28034. Then understand that he was shipped to the California Conservation Center, where he was killed in October 1972 by Big Pelon Moreno and Sleepy Betancourt. There was Frank Pilo Miranda Carrillo. He was an NF member in the 1970s with B number 67434 and was well known at DVI in the late 1970s. He then paroled in July 1978 when he was considered to be a regimental commander of Salinas. And here we go again. While some deny it ever happened, I have documentation that he was up in Washington State in the 1970s selling dope also. Understand that he killed Raymond Baby Ray Chavez with David Mendoza on September 24, 1978 in Gilroy. After trial and his conviction, I believe he was assigned C number 14391. I show he was popped for dope sales in Sacramento in 2002, and I lost track of Pilo after the year 2012. There was Paul Pablo Miron from San Fran, who was an NF member documented at DVI in 1977 under B number 64035, where he appeared in pictures with several prominent NF members. And so I'll have to stop right there. We only have one more episode before we are finished with the M last names of Nuestra Familia members over the past 6 decades or so. For now, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians. If I go forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If they, I may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. On a mission, each one of us shares our own